Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Not an ordinary Football at 4 Friday. As Adam Caplan will explain, the Eagles likely will be making a trade on Monday, and it is a team between the Eagles and the Niners that we talked about a little while ago. We mentioned two teams, the Niners and the Falcons. They both had ties to Bryce Huff. So according to reports, Huff, the Eagles and the Niners are finalizing a trade that will send Huff to San Francisco for a mid-round pick. It will be a post-June 1st trade, which means on Monday we will most likely make that official. So we'll start there with Adam Caplan here as we look at some under-the-radar players on this roster. But now they got a guy that's not on the roster, which will put other players more on the radar at that position. Huff going to San Francisco for a mid-round pick, Adam.
Yeah, so we'll have to scrap what we were going to talk about because we're the focus of kind of next week's shows on Inside the Birds with Geoff Mosher and I. We're going to start digging into the roster more and give you some intel on players that we're not talking about a lot, but it could actually be bigger factors than you think. But let's get to the Bryce Huff trade. So, Mike, they were really trying to trade him. The word was that I got starting at the combine. Nothing got done there. Really try to get him done, traded before the draft. Didn't happen during the draft. Didn't happen, and you typically don't see these happen in May. But we have this trade here. Eagles wanted to move him. They were able to move him. He wasn't at OTAs. It was pretty clear to us that they told him the agreement between him and I think CEA represents him. Pretty much, my read is they probably mutually agreed. Let's have him stay back until we're able to move him. It's like the worst thing could happen is I know the money's guaranteed. The problem is, and this was part of today's trade, or at least agreed to a trade, is that the Eagles are going to have to eat some of the money, but the new team is going to have to take some of the money. That's the Niners, and you're not going to be able to move a trade if you're not going to be able to move a player if he's hurt. So Bryce Huff is not. He's healthy. By the way, the trade has to be official. He's got to pass the physical, but it's widely expected that he'll pass the physical. Remember, he did have the wrist surgery, but he's well over that. But getting back to what happened here and why it didn't happen and why the Niners wanted him. So the Eagles signed him, Mike, based on his upside. Okay, 27 years old. He did great with Robert Saleh, who's now the 49ers defense coordinator, and he was the Jets head coach. And Bryce Huff did extremely well in the wide nine. And the Niners have been running that. In fact, Chris Kusarek is the D-line coach. Chris Kusarek is a big reason why they acquired this player. Yes, Robert Saleh has institutional knowledge. He coached him. But Chris Kusarek is what they call a nine-line specialist. He learned the wide nine going back to 2009 with Jim Schwartz with the Lions. So, yeah, it matches up totally from the Niners standpoint. So they obviously wanted him. They needed him. Drake Jackson, a former second-round pick, was cut. He had a pretty bad knee injury. So they're pretty light at defensive end. They'll get him in the rotation. So you clearly see this was a no-brainer from the Niners standpoint. Now, we should add, the ESPN report says that of the cash, which was due, this $16.75 million, the Eagles are going to take on $9 million of that. Now, Mike, you should know that the total cash that the Eagles are into him for, and it's unfortunate, but it's just a way of life. The total cash is going to be over $26 million that they owe him. So it didn't work for 1 year. They got $26 million. He's getting $26 million from them. The total cash for 2 years was $34 million. Oh well, it didn't work. Niners will take on the rest of the money of the $34 million owed, and it just didn't work. So I know why they did it, Mike. He's a young upside player, but what they didn't realize is it really only worked with his hand in the dirt. He's got to play in that 9 front. The Niners play more of it than anyone does, and it is what it is, Mike. That's just the way it is. Like, it didn't work. Give Howie credit. At least he's not taking all of the money. He moved the cash, which is extremely important to NFL owners. You'll hear we did a emergency pod on this, kind of a fun one. Owners never say to our GM, they don't go, hey, how much cap space did we save? They're going to say, how much money did we save and how much are we into him for this player? That's all owners care about. Now, the general manager will care about cap space, which they're going to recover, and so will their contract negotiators, but they also care about cash. Cash is king, and they were able to move some of this.
They do that, and according to the reports out there, the Eagles, it looks like, will take on only $9 million of the salary. The Niners will be responsible for the remaining $7.95 due to Huff this season. He was set to make $17 million fully guaranteed. The Eagles restructured the contract, so Huff worked with the Eagles to get out of there, it sounds like.
Yes. Again, he was going to be moved. They wanted him off the roster. They found a team to do it. Again, they owed him $17.25 million from last season. $6.75 million was the cash this season. The Eagles are going to take roughly $9 million. The Niners take on, a little bit over $7 million. The Eagles are into him for $26 million. Oh well, it didn't work.
Yeah.
You move on, Mike.
No, I don't think anybody's bemoaning that the Eagles. Now, the one question I would have is who made the mistake? Did Roseman get this player and Vic Fangio said, I can't use this player? Did Fangio lobby for this player and then say, I made a mistake, he doesn't
No, the Eagles loved, well, here's how it started. The Eagles, the word that I got, and there were like 4 teams in it for Bryce Huff, the Eagles got on him immediately. When Howie wants a player, he's not denied. Like, he met what they wanted. They gave him 2 years fully guaranteed, 3 year $51 million, first 2 years fully guaranteed to $34 million. They wanted him, and now Howie this is the way I understand it. Howie always goes to his coordinators, hey, just let you know, this is the guy we want to sign. Make sure you watch tape of him.
Right.
They usually give the list, and they look at it, and if Vic would have said no, they wouldn't have done it. It's not Vic's call, but Howie, one of his strengths is, Mike, he'll never force a player down the coach's throat. I know this for a fact. I've talked to, I don't know how many of their coaches, coordinators over the years. Howie's not perfect, no GM is, but he knows better. Now, what happened, Mike, was Huff, as a run-force player, was not very good. Technique was not very good. He wasn't getting the scheme. He'd not played in a scheme as a stand-up pass rusher before, and he clearly was not comfortable with it. Now, what we did on Inside the Birds was, because we have a relationship with Ryan Silverfield, the Memphis head coach, where he played, we had Silverfield on our show, and he spoke very highly of him. He was aware that he wasn't doing well, but he said, no, there was nothing to suggest. In fact, he said Huff would check in with him. Pretty good person. It just didn't work. But my one issue with Bryce Huff was him not playing well, and we know he had the wrist surgery. He did that interview with a New Jersey paper. I thought it was NJ.com, but I'm not 100%. But the week of the Super Bowl, Mike, that was terrible timing. He should have done that after the Super Bowl. That didn't help. It didn't blow up. I'm surprised it didn't blow up, but I thought the timing was bad. But overall, to move us along here, Mike, it didn't work. They have players at edge, Mike, which we can get into to finish this off. It's not like they don't have players, but edge is never about how many players you have. It's about how good are the players that you have.
Right.
Don't conflate the two. People always do that, and they don't quite understand.
And that's where we were going here as we have Football 4 with Adam Kaplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. They have an emergency pod if you want to hear more on the trade. Huff is gone, or he will be gone come Monday, it looks like. So what's left? And, I mean, this tells me that, number one, not only were they comfortable moving Huff, a guy that they liked for $51 million a year ago, they got to feel pretty comfortable with what they have left over.
Well, Mike, I think one wasn't really connected with the other. They were going to move Bryce Huff. It was not going to be here in the fall, one way or the other. They could have, with the agent, they could have said, "Listen, we're if you're willing to wait, we'll find a team." Now, what they could have done. Now, I don't think this was in the cards, but I know teams have done. The Eagles have done this before. Well, they'll go. Hey, well, they actually. By the way, what am I saying? They did it with Devin White. Devin White was owed over $5 million. They said, hey, they had agreement with his agent where he got paid, I think, just around $3 million. So they saved some cash and a little bit of cap, but they still owed him over $3 million fully guaranteed. But that got him cut early, so he could find another team. So yeah, they could have done that, but they never came to that. I think my understanding was they're going to wait this out as long as they could, but they got this done right before June. It'll be official next week, assuming he passes the physical. Now, what do they have left, Mike? The starters were always going to be Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt, but I say Hunt with an asterisk. He's been a great story, Mike. He wasn't really supposed to play last season, but because of Huff's poor play, then injury. By the way, Huff, as Geoff pointed out to me, I forgot about this. He was healthy and active for the Super Bowl. Oy, that's not good. Yes. I totally forgot about that. So, Smith's definitely starting. He's come back from torn triceps. He'll be ready for the season. The only question is for training camp, will it be fully healthy or not? He's doing very limited work right now. Hunt right now would be a starter if the season started today. I know it doesn't start today, but right now we're projecting him to start. It doesn't mean he's playing 80% of the snaps. It might be 50. It might be 40. Ojulari, who they love. Guy's had a major injury history, but when he plays, he's really good. They know him very well, coming from the Giants. Josh Uche, who the last 2 seasons not very good. Powell Ryland. Now, Mike, he's a 6th-round pick. I got a little bit more information on him because I was stunned like most fans. Like, the guy had like 25 sacks over last 2 seasons. Well, measurable's not great, not real explosive on tape. Good effort, but he was going to be a 3rd-day pick regardless of what his numbers look like. But I'm a little surprised he went this late. But he's a 6th-round pick, Mike, for a reason. Teams didn't think he was that good. So, but he did have good college numbers. He's fighting for a roster spot. You've got O'Shawn Mathis, a former draft pick of the Rams, Mike. And Jahad Campbell, Mike, now, again, as we told people after he was drafted, they're going to try him at edge and inside backer. They don't know yet, and they have zero idea where he's going to be percentage-wise. It's going to be, A, when he's fully cleared, B, what's his learning? How well does he understand what he's being asked to do? They're not going to know that for a while, Mike, until they get deep in training camp. So they're really a guy short. They're going to have to add someone. We're going to talk about this more on our Monday Inside the Bird show. But they don't have a choice. They're going to have to add someone at some point. It doesn't have to be now. The season doesn't start till September. But remember, another nugget for you, Mike. In training camp, teams have always 3 levels of depth. You got your first-team defense, your second-team defense, and your third-team defense. You've got to have a minimum of 6 that are in your rotation for training camp, for injury and heat that happens, and then, of course, the preseason. So you're probably going to go to camp with 8 of them. They also have, I mentioned O'Shawn Mathis. KJ Henry is a former Washington draftee who's really done nothing in the league. So they're and again, we don't know about Campbell's availability for training camp. Let's not forget, Mike, Nolan Smith, great story last season. He did nothing as a rookie. For his first 2 seasons,
he didn't do much his first half of the season either.
Right, 3/4 of it was actually after week 4. He's only played well for 3/4 of 1 season. So let's not give him the Holy Grail yet. Great story. I've not seen anything like this before. Mike, when a guy does nothing year 1, bad training camp, disappointing preseason, you would just think, you know what? It's not looking good. But I give him credit. Super hard worker, very positive guy, talking to people about him. And now we'll see, Mike. We'll see if he could duplicate it. But again, he's only really very limited in OTAs because he's not cleared yet to fully practice.
Right.
But they still have a lot of questions. And Patrick Johnson's there, but he's only a special teams player. They still have a lot of questions at edge. Let's be honest about it.
All right, before we get out, they got a mid-round pick. I don't know what that means, 3, 4, 5. But if it's a 3, 4, or 5, were you surprised that you got that much for what Huff did last year?
No, I'd be stunned if it's any. I mean, it won't be. If 3 would floor me, I would be shocked because remember, the Niners are taking on over $7 million. Now we don't know about the 3rd year if they're tearing the contract up. We don't know yet. I'll have the details for us on Inside the Birds once the trade's completed. We'll get the breakdown. But I look. I don't. Give Howie credit. Wow, see, he raked another team. He didn't rake anybody. They're taking on over $9 million here. Okay. They're going to be into him for over $26 million. So let's. I'm not criticizing Howie, but I think sometimes people give him blind credit. He missed on him, as I mentioned, because he thought, and I'll admit, I thought it was a very good move when they signed Huff, because I know from talking to the Jets how they felt about him. They tried to bring him back, but he was going to get way more than the Jets were willing to pay him. It just didn't work. So Howie's, he's arguably NFL's best GM. I mean, let's call it like it is. No one's perfect. Every general manager makes a mistake, but good for him. Moving cash. They saved cash. They saved cap. And they moved on after 1 year. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's all you could. What else could you say?
All right, there you go. Bryce Huff going to be traded to San Francisco. We'll have the more details on it. There's a lot of details out there now you can check out. And, of course, the guys over at Inside the Birds broke it all down. Check out the podcast. It's an emergency pod at Inside the Birds on all podcasting platforms. Thanks, Adam.
You got it. Thanks.
All right, there you go. Football at 4 on a Friday edition here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN.